I transcribed this from the Artist Helping Artists radio blog, AHA, and I don't think they're around anymore. Maybe several years ago, and some of those shows really were helpful to me. And I went back and re-listened to it, and I wrote down all the tips. So you'll see some errors in here as I was writing things or typing them really quick. And I feel like this is for every level. Your success doesn't have to be monetary or in the business realm. I know that we all three do commissions and shows, and we don't do it as a full-time thing necessarily, but I think even just being successful at having creative space every day. So you could take these things on both extremes, from the business aspect all back to down to just personal success and personal enjoyment of what you're doing. And I'll just go through them kind of one at a time. She said the number one was, I can't do everything today, but I can take one small step. And she talked about just picking an idea, a goal, a plan, and get started. The first step is the hardest. This was, I guess, around the fall or Christmas, but don't wait till January 1st and believe you can do it. So I thought, just narrowing it down to today, what is one thing that we can do today? What does that look like for us to just narrow it down? Do you girls have any thoughts about that?
Well, I know that when I'm journaling, it does help for me to write the date down on the page. Not days in advance, mind you, the day of the actual date. And then I've already got a pencil on the paper. I might as well draw something. And so it gets me started. So if I own up to I have to write the date down, I will get something else on that page. And it helps.
That's great. That's great. And for me, journaling, I gave myself permission for it not to be a chronological or an everyday thing. It can be sporadic. Most of my spiritual journals are just maybe 4 months before I write again. But I do write a date, and then I write what's going on in the form of a prayer or a praise, or just a update of what's happening currently, what's happening in my life, because that's important for me to journal that. What else? Sometimes for me, it is just going outside. That helps me clear my brain, or just walking out to the studio. That one thing might be to clean up my art area, or make it inviting. That helps me. There's something in my brain about if it's too much trouble to get it all out, I talk myself out of it. And since I'm not having classes right now, my studio is kind of just free reign. I don't have to have things set up for class. I can spread my stuff out. So I did that the other day. I got a new palette, a new shadow box, smaller one that's clean and fresh. And I put some gray paper in it. And I have a spot for pastel and a spot for oil. So the spot's there. I just got to get my butt out there. And that sounded like a little reprimand. What about you, Norma?
Well, I think that if I see beautiful paintings, or if I see photographs or something, that spurs me on. If I see or I hear people talking about art or whatever, that always challenges me, because it makes me want to. And I don't know, I think to me that's one of the beauties of being exposed to this class, and having books and materials to look at, and it always challenges me when I see things or see someone's work that I think, oh wow, I want to try that.
I have at the end of this PowerPoint, I screenshotted my Instagram bookmarks, because I don't love Instagram. I love the connections I have there, because I have 2 accounts for Instagram. I have a personal, and I probably wouldn't have it if some of my young kids didn't make me get on it. But I have the personal, and then I have the Christine Pilkinton Studio, which is only artists. I've only followed artists on there, so that when I open that account, it's all art related things and all beautiful artwork. And I have made bookmarks in the Instagram account. And I was thinking, it's not easy to save images from Instagram.
No, I've tried. It's tough.
Yeah, I don't like that. But so I have all the bookmarks. So I wanted to show you girls some of my bookmarks, just to show you how I'm organizing things in Instagram, so that because I do go back and use it for reference sometimes. But it's also more than that. It's very inspirational because there's some amazing art being shared on there that just blows me away. So I haven't looked at it in a long time, and I'm kind of looking forward to flipping through some of that today. When you look at Instagram on the desktop, it does not show the bookmarks. It only just shows a running list chronologically of all the things you've bookmarked in one big file. So, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of how I've organized mine, because I like to be able to, I'm getting ready to start maybe a sepia tone or something. And so I just go to that folder and I look at all those for inspiration and ideas. So, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No.
When you challenge us to go out or sit up still offs the other day, I didn't really find anything to set up, but it challenged me. I took my camera out yesterday and took all kinds of photos of flowers. So I thought I'd post some of those later today. But just that inspired me to, oh yeah, I've got that camera. And why am I not taking photos of all these beautiful flowers that are blooming right now? And one of the things that I took was a playground, and it was empty. And I thought, it's just a sign of what's going on right now. But it was still beautiful. But there's so much out there to photograph for later.
That's a one thing that you can do, and it doesn't take as much effort usually to take pictures as it does to actually get all your paints out and do that. I'm going to show you some images here in a little bit from Ken Auster, some just ordinary things that he has turned into paintings. And I think that's key to have I always say it, but to have your folder full of possibles, because that keeps your excitement in your butterflies in your stomach. And when you're taking these great pictures, you've got so much reference material that there's never a moment for boredom or slacking off in your excitement about it. You can just go to those folders and get excited about it. So that's great, Norma. Thank you for sharing that. Number two, I like this. I had to kind of dig a little bit to make it more tangible. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that is really a lot about sales. And I don't think that way consciously about how am I going to sell this. I have at times when I've done a lot of festivals and shows. I've had to make myself think of how to engage with people that will come in my booth. And this really applies more to that. But I think on a personal level, if you know why you're doing it, you make a conscious decision. Like right now, I know that my call on life is to two things. I think I may have shared these Tuesday. All my groups are merging together. I know that God has called me to be a teacher and encourager to my students in the biblical realm and in the art world. That's the overarching call on my life that continues to stay pretty consistent. And the other is to be a part-time mother right now to my grandchildren. And that's very important. So those two things sort of drive me around and keep me on track because I have a purpose and it's important. Both of those things are vital to how I feel inside. So if I had to make a logo, I don't know that I would do that. It might be kind of fun in my sketchbook to make myself a little logo for this call on my life, this purpose that I have in this season for me to keep me on track when I get up every day. Can you see that well enough to read it, Norma? My voice is driving me crazy here.
Every company that succeeds tells why they do it and why you should create a lifestyle brand to convey this message. Even social media, etc., allow a peek into your day, your studio, your house, Why not? This may just be for you to remind yourself why you create.
What do you think about that? Have you ever thought that way? It's important to have a brand or a logo or a mission statement, a purpose statement, just personally. And have you had one? Have you had anything like this for your business or for yourself personally? I've got another slide on this.
I think marketing's where I fall short.
I found a couple of logos, you know, just little statements. What would be the image that would define who you are right now, what you're doing in your life? I think that's a legitimate goal and a good question to ask
it's really
yourself.
thought-provoking.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think people begin to despair when they don't have a purpose or when they forget. You know, a part of the Bible study I'm teaching right now on your sacred yes, it says that we throw our yeses around as if they don't matter. They're sloppy. We're sloppy with them. And sometimes that's because we've forgotten who we are and what God has put us here on this planet for. So it's easy to lose sight of that as we're going along in the day-to-day grind. So I think that's a legitimate thing.
Well, I know I named my art page like Inspirational Arts and Photography because I'd always wanted to inspire. I've been inspired so much that I wanted to take what I've learned and inspire others. So maybe that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
And I'm wondering, Bridget, we were talking about having prompts for this next month. I haven't done that yet, but I'm wondering if somehow I can take these 10 slides and make prompts with them. Maybe we design a logo for ourselves on one of those pages, because we can sit here and talk about this, and then I'll get up and I'll go, you know, do the next thing, which is go get the kids and start into that. And I'll forget all about this. And it's like, oh, this is nice.
Right.
How do I make it more tangible in my life, even in a playful way in my sketchbook? So maybe I've just given myself an idea. Number 3, it says, do what no one else is willing to do. Pick one thing, even a simple, small thing, and you'll instantly be different than the rest of the pack. Some examples: vary your painting subject, how you paint, painting ordinary things in a spectacular way, paint from a different perspective, such as laying in the sand to photograph a wave, 30 paintings in 30 days. Bridget, you've done that. 30 people photograph the same person to see how they differ. Just trying to think outside the box, I guess. And I love this quote. It says, it requires bravery to do something no one else around you is doing. I've got a few more quotes about this that I'll get back to, but these are a few of Ken Auster's paintings. Do you know his work, Bridget?
I don't, but I love his lighting.
Well, I was introduced to his work somewhere, and the thing that grabbed me was he had done an alley, just an old alley with garbage cans, and it was kind of an ugly, and it was painted in the evening when the light was kind of sparkly, and he had made that so interesting, just a blah area that nobody else would ever stop to think to paint in. And so I went online. I tried to find in my own collection. I couldn't find that painting, but I did go online to look at a few of these. The lighting, and then notice the way in this first painting, the chef or the server, bartender, whatever it is sharp and crisp and lit, and everything else is a total blur. It's really kind of hard. This reminded me a little of your paintings, but yours were much more. I was going to
say that same thing. I thought,
Bridget, much more detailed. Yours were, but this is.
I could learn from this looseness. I could learn a lot.
Well, and his were, most of these, if I remember correctly, were like 6-inch studies. They're little. So, yeah. So that's
thumbnails.
Yeah, they're little thumbnails. So that's a whole different ball game than when you're, painting a large regular size painting. And then just, this one almost looks like the Beatles there with them crossing the road. But very simply stated, just a regular time of day, nothing extraordinary about it. And here's a couple more. This first one is just a kind of gives you a mood, a kind of a dark, scary. I don't think I'd want to walk down that street at night by myself. And then the other, I just love the colors and the brightness to that little pub or sports bar. Maybe it's a sports bar.
But like you were saying earlier, that different things inspire you. Now I'm inspired to do some little I've got a bunch of 6x6 blanks.
Do you?
I've already got them. It's not even a matter of having to find them, and I know where they are. And it's difficult to get to capture something in that small a space for me. It's a real challenge, and that's something that now makes me want to go in my studio and paint. It's like, bring that challenge to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and listen, I've said this a lot in class, but if you paint a beautiful sunrise or a gorgeous baby's face, half the work is done for you because your subject matter is beautiful. But if you take something very ordinary, and by reason of lighting and color and paint and technique, you make it beautiful. I believe you've taken it up a notch. Quite a notch, because it's a challenge to do something like that. I love these two quotes. I found them just when I was looking. Push yourself because no one else is going to do it for you. In art, that's pretty much the case. I mean, there's not anybody behind me pushing and driving me to do it, except the commission call, a person that's anxious for it and has a deadline. That will be about the only thing that pushes me. And then I love this one. It says, don't forget, no one else sees the world the way you do. So no one else can tell the stories that you have to tell. We're unique, and what we put out in the world is very special, because there will be nothing else like it ever. Ours is totally unique. And then, of course, an Einstein quote, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity, of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. It's enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day. Never lose a holy curiosity. Just inspiring words, just to go and look in the commonplace things for something beautiful, even just being down on the ground, and looking at those teeny tiny little flowers that I was walking with Destiny the other day, and I picked some of those spring beauties, which are the little white flowers, out in the grass. And when I brought them up and put them in her little hand, they were the most beautiful bouquet. We brought them in the house and put them in a little tiny, whatever those little shot glasses or whatever they are that I have. But they were just stunning. They were really pretty when you get up close to those and look at them and appreciate them.
Isn't it great seeing things through her eyes, the way she reacts with so much excitement and enthusiasm when something little is presented to her like that?
Yes, everything is
I love it.
New. What you do with them. But thank you for that reminder, Norma, because I can get caught up in the care and how much work that is, and forget the wonder of looking for something beautiful. She's writing and drawing. She loves to have like 3 or 4 little different pencils in her hand, and she's so careful with how she holds it. And she'll do little dots and little squiggles. She's very, very careful and intimate with that. So I can begin to, and I know you girls do with your grands, encourage that love of art for them, for all of them, because for everybody to be able to have the ability to just doodle and to have that creative rest in your mind. And we can create a love for that, just like a love for reading. I believe it's important. The fourth one, let's see what time it is. All right, we're good. Be disciplined. Rise early, read, prioritize, write goals, be consistent, organized, scheduled, cross off your list, rest the brain by getting the to-dos out on paper, or it will break your creative flow to carry all that around in your brain. How true is that for you guys?
So ultimately true. I have to put the list down. It's not always in order, but the list is there so that when I cross things off, I can physically see the list getting smaller.
Yes.
I think last year when you did the set the goals, when we actually started this mentor group, you know, it helped me during the last year to really set those goals in place and work toward them. And I thought of that the other day, and I thought, what goals do I need to put in place for this year? You know, I need to write those down, and I haven't done it, but it's kind of been different.
And that doesn't have to be a January 1st thing. For me, it's almost daily. When this quarantine first started, I was like, oh no, what am I going to do with all my time? Not that it's ever a problem with me, but I don't want to just do daily stuff, you know, it's like shoveling snow while it's still snowing. It makes no difference. It gets you nowhere. So I wrote down on a little piece of white paper, just want-to-dos, need-to-dos, you know, stuff out in the garage, and then want-to-dos, and then, you know, organizational things. So if I'm having a few minutes or I get up and I'm blank that day, I can just look at my list and go, oh yeah, okay. And then I give myself freedom to choose from that list of wanting to do. And then, you know, Dreama has been posting a lot about these new online things she's going to do about flow. Dreama Tolley Perry. So it's got me thinking about creative flow again. I don't know what they are. I'm assuming it's just, you know, when they talk about creative flow, it's getting in your spot so that nothing disrupts you and you can truly because, you know, I'm sort of constipated sometimes in how I create, because I do a little bit and then I get interrupted and I have to go over here and I'm just like, eh. And it would be such a dream to have a whole day to just let whatever comes come, and you don't even stop to, like, Jamie Wyeth, I think was the one. I have a video on my website about him, and he doesn't even stop to put the tops of the tubes of paint back on. He throws them, you know, he just tries to have everything out so he can just paint without stopping the thought process of what's going on in his head. Because I think it breaks it up for us, even if you have to stop and mix color again, or, you know, you get interrupted so you turn your phone off, or whatever you have to do to be uninterrupted and being able to do it to the full. And I think as women, we don't give ourselves that space because, well, dinner has to be cooked 5 o'clock every day. I mean, does it at your house pretty much? Or you have guys that cook some? No.
My husband's taken over a lot of the cooking recently. It's been nice.
We're so jealous. Well, and again, but you have to stop to eat, and you have to, you know, there's things that you just have to do. But I think to get to a place in your life, that's my whimsical thinking, that I'm going to get to a place in life where I don't have to do this, or a day where I don't have to cook. Anyway, that's
I don't want to wake up at the end of all this and look back and say, you know, I wish I'd have done this and I wish I'd have done that while I had the time to do it.
Right. And all those meals I cooked, I mean, they kept us alive, but I could do something different. Like I could cook a couple of days, which is what I did the other day. I made enough chicken for 3 days. You know, while I had the mess out, I went ahead and got that done and out of the way. So some of it's planning ahead of time. You girls are probably early birds. I am not always. I found this little article about reasons to get up early. It was posted in Farmer's Almanac. You accomplish more. You get a jump start on your day. It's quiet, you know, in the morning. Increased alertness. You're fresher earlier in the day. Most people are, not everybody. Some people do better at nighttime. It's just a good way to start your day. waking up an extra 30 minutes early to exercise will prolong your health, your life. Taking a walk. And for me, this is true, except when I have the baby. Peaceful early mornings give me time by myself, because Mark doesn't get up until now. He just got up a little while ago. I need that. I need some quiet, just nobody around me space. So it also says rising earlier will help you avoid the usual stress of the morning rush. You have time to get ready. And then sometimes if you get a jump start on your day, you'll have more leisure time in the evening. You give yourself permission to relax in the evening because you've gotten stuff done. So those were all good incentives for getting up early. This came out of the study I'm doing right now about your sacred yes. And I love this message version of Proverbs 12. Diligence is man's precious possession. So just kind of staying at it, whatever that looks like. Number 5, don't care what others think. Believe it. I love this little, I found this. Believe in yourself. And they've just put parentheses around be and you. Be you. Don't let anyone dull your sparkle. And I had that happen yesterday. Sometimes those things are subtle and the other is wrong. So I have to remind myself of that. And again, comparison. I've got this next slide and I love this. I love finding this little cartoon because I struggle with helping my students when we compare ourselves. And it never goes away. It was hardest in our teens, but it still rears its ugly head sometimes. And it's apples and oranges. How can you compare the two? We're all so different. God has made us uniquely different. Does that creep in for you girls at all, or has anything recently?
Oh, yeah.
And it can be crippling sometimes. It can not necessarily cripple you, but it can stop you in your tracks for a bit and waste valuable time camping out in your head, just the thoughts. It's like, how do I deflect that and keep that from happening? Number 6 is keep it simple. Da Vinci said simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. When things are simple, they can be easily explained, accomplished, and replicated. If you can't explain something, then you don't truly understand it. I don't know about that. I don't understand electricity, but I use it.
But if you don't understand it, you can't explain it.
Well, that's true.
That's a very true statement, because that's how I eventually got through chemistry in college. So I was taking the notes, listening to the professor, but I wasn't doing well on the exams because I still didn't understand it. So I started tutoring somebody in chemistry. So I had to understand it to be able to teach it. And that's when it clicked, and that's when I started to get good grades in it.
Wow.
So I do think that's a real statement.
Yeah. I guess I misunderstood it because it doesn't say if you can't explain something, then you can't use it.
No.
It says you
don't understand it.
Right. If you don't understand something, you can't use it. That's not it. It's that you can't explain it to somebody else. That's true. So even how does that apply in our art, in keeping it simple? So people, and that we try to do too much sometimes. How does that apply? It applies to me almost every day, because I will make a little peanut butter jelly lunch into some kind of big complicated thing because my creative brain wants to add more stuff. Oh, well, let's go ahead and let's have some appetizers, and let's go ahead and get flowers for the table, and before I know it, I've brought all kinds of stuff in. And I do that with my art sometimes. I'll keep adding things because it's interesting, or I think, oh, I like that, and before I know it, it's too busy. I've made too much in it.
The March workshop that I started at Warehouse 521, it started on the 9th of March, and that was the only class we had because of COVID. But it was the idea of drawing with a brush. So you're only using 2 colors, burnt sienna and white. And so I got there, and I think there were about a dozen of us. There were more students than I thought we were going to have. And she'd set up 4 different magnolia branches. They were artificial, but they were up against burlap with very good lighting, so there's shadows and all. And she had us practice some loosening up exercises before we even tried to sketch these things out. And then she taught us how to block in shapes. And at the time I thought, this is going to be so simple to do in just brown and white, because there's really not that much color in a white flower and these dark green leaves. Then you start, the more you're looking at it, the more you realize. And it was, I mean, it's good that I only had 2 colors. I only brought 2 colors. I would have wanted to grab the colors. And,
wow.
and it was very difficult to simplify it that much and get what we were trying to do. I was really excited about coming back for the next week. Didn't know what she's going to set up for the next week. So we're supposed to be able to, reschedule it at some point. I hope we can.
I love that. I wonder, do you think the color, well, if it was magnolias, it was green and white. There wasn't a lot of color to distract you.
Which is why I thought it would be an easy thing to do. It's like, wait a minute, I need some of that yellow warmth. I need some of this. You don't have that.
Right.
Use what you have. And it was tough.
And I think this is something we can all learn. I put this little logo on there. I don't know what it's for, some kind of nature website. But I just think trying to keep things as simple. What can I leave out is a good question to ask yourself, to keep this simpler and not complicate things. We know that when we start making a background too busy, it takes away from the subject.
Oh, yeah.
And when we try to include too much, and again, I like everything. One of the examples I show in a composition PowerPoint shows a painting by Paul Gauguin, maybe, and there's actually 3 mini paintings in it. It's so much going on in it, you really don't know where to look, but you could take each apart and they could each be 3 separate paintings. And so I think that's a key, to give yourself permission to say, well, maybe I'll paint that in another painting, and just stick to the main thing and to keep it simple. I think it's forever something for us to keep in the back of our minds. There's another one of the logos from the same place. I just thought it was it's cute. It's simple.
Well, and a couple of years ago, I don't think they're doing it anymore, but down at On Track Studios, down where Pam Paget and Dawn Whitelaw are, once a month, they would set up for 2 nights in a row. They would set up a huge still life. Like there'd be 15 to 18 things on it, and with really strong lighting sources, and you could set up wherever. And I mean, some people tried to do the whole thing, which was ridiculous. But the idea is find your sweet spot, find your joy in that. And that might be an exercise that we can do at the studio sometime, rather than you setting up all those little stations where people can go to individually, setting up one massive one. And then people sort of have to do an arch around it and figure out where their joy is in that.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. I'm going to write that down.
And all of that is about, it is a matter of simplifying. You don't have to put everything in that's in your little spot of joy.
Yeah.
Maybe there's 3 items there that speak to you. Then paint those 3 and make that a complete portrait.
Or even, focus in on one thing and the other things become almost abstract. So that the viewer is
kind of the way that painting was. I don't remember his name already.
Yeah,
that you showed us with the waiters and the glassware. Yeah,
Ken Auster. Yeah, I think that's a great thing, because that invites your viewer to come in and tell the story, figure those things out on their own. Great idea. Great idea. Number 7, the one thing you can always do is outwork them. And this felt a little competitive to me. I'm not a very competitive person, so it might appeal more to those who are. There was an article by Jimmy Spithill. What a name.
Yeah.
Rarely have I seen a situation where doing less than the other guy is a good strategy. You may not be as experienced, well-funded, connected, talented, but you can outthink, out-hustle, and outwork everyone else. The extra mile is a vast, unpopulated wasteland. It is talked about, but few go there. Effort and persistence will be to your advantage and may be the only advantage that you truly need. Hard work really pays off. Try new ideas. There are parts of this that I would be drawn to. I am not at that place anymore where I want to work myself to death. I want things to be easier and enjoyable now at this stage. I think if you're 20, for me, I could see this because that's the way, that was my ethic. I just stayed on the go all the time. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I've always been a competitive person because I've always ran and all that and competed in races and things like that. And I enjoy the competitions. But I think for that, at this age, to me, the most important thing is to compete with myself, to do every painting I do for it to be a little bit better than the last one. And to try to find those things that I can push. Like I can remember when I was painting the dogs and I would do those hard lines, the lines in the face. And I learned by continuing to push that I can make them come out of the creases in a face and how to make that roll out instead of just making a line to make a crease in the face. So it's just things like that I found that you can keep on and push and make it more realistic. But for me, competition, I think, is I'm competing against myself each time to be better, to be a better person in whatever way.
If you think of anything, I just felt like that was more on getting me into comparing myself to other people. And I'm kind of not really, unless it spurs me on to do better, like you're saying, comparing your work to a previous one. I love that because I do want to constantly be getting better.
I like to find people's work that, just like you do, that really challenges me, and I'll look and I study their work, but I think they've done that over the years. I've started trying to watch YouTubes on Sargent's work and really try to study why he did the things that he did. And David Casson was one. I think he pronounces that different. Casson is how he actually pronounces his name. And I think we've talked about that before. I studied his work to see how he can make those people look so realistic. And it's things like that challenge me. I don't compare myself to them because I know they've been at this from a greater time than I have. So, but it's just striving to be as, in that position or that as good as with my work, not that I want their whatever they have. But for me, that's where I draw it from.
I love that. And I think if we do a little bit, just like at the beginning of this session, if we do a little bit every day, the artists that really truly get good are ones who work at it every day, who have done, painting a day, or, really the illustrators who had to put work out every day. So I think when you outwork, when you really make a deliberate attempt to do something every day, it will show in your work and your thought processes. I found these two slides that hard work does pay off. So if you make your decision, and you've done that, in the last few years of making yourself paint so much that we've watched your progress if you've done it. I loved this quote says, there will be obstacles, there will be doubters, there will be mistakes, but with hard work, there are no limits. And so we just keep pushing and don't let anything get in our way, pushing down those obstacles. This number 8 was on systems, and this is kind of foreign to me. It's more of a business term, but it says successful. Remember that systems build success. Successful people proactively take inventory of the tasks they need to complete, determine which activities only you can do, and delegate or outsource other things. Break down tasks into steps and processes that can be done quickly, efficiently, and can be replicated if necessary. Developing systems that build on your strengths and unique talents create success. Take a look at your art business. What are the things only you can do? Perfectionists are often procrastinators. You'll never get done or caught up. And artists work best with a deadline, I think is what it needs to say. For me, this says, maybe at some point when I get somebody else to mow the yard or, if are there things that I can leave undone or let somebody else do to have more focus on what I do well and not worry.
And even in the art realm, I've tried different things, and I just find that I like certain things, and other things, you know, just because it's a challenge or whatever, if I'm not happy doing that, I really want to focus my time on what I feel like life short. I want to do it, what I enjoy doing, and build on that, make that better. It was kind of like when I had the opportunity to work on that children's book, and I was drawing the drawings, and I was trying to learn Procreate. It's an app that allows you to do illustrations, and I wasn't enjoying it at all, and it was hard for me to say no.
Yeah.
But once I did it, it was like a relief. And then I started back on my portraits, and I thought, this is just where I'm happy, and this is what I want to do. And when you talked about doing the sketchbooks the other day, and I don't remember if you remember, but I started the masterpieces of my children and the grandchildren and the family, whatever and I like that rather than just the doodling. So I guess that's doing what I enjoy doing is important for me at this age.
Yeah, and that's a system in itself of, what steps it takes to make this machine go. And I've had lots of suggestions through the years. Of somebody suggested one time that I did airbrushing, and different kinds of things. And I'm like, nah. And even trying some of those things, and when I gave myself permission to say, no, I don't really like this, or even subject matter, I don't get excited about certain genres, certain things. And so I think that's building your own system of what you love to do and having a plan.
Try.
Yeah, at least you try, right? Yeah. And what is I love this little logo for what is my plan? Do I have a plan for making art? That was the big thing out of last year when we did the plan, the year plan or whatever it was. I forget what we called it now. It made me stop and look, what do I really want to do, and what are my goals, and how do I work to get that? Because art, if I don't make it a priority and I don't have some sort of a system in place, it will fall by the wayside, because there are so many irons in the fire all the time. There's so many fires to put out or things to do for daily life. Even just now getting back into the spring season with yard mowing and weed eating and flower beds and gardens, and you could do that every day and then be exhausted, because literally a couple of hours of doing that now and I'm pooped. I don't have any creative juice left. So getting back to a plan for that. This one I'm going to go over kind of fast because it really has to do with your subject matter. Answer the question that wasn't asked. Often people are shy, and this has to do with when they come up to your painting at a festival or something. But often people are shy and ask a different question than what they really want to know. Like, say, a painting of a beach. If it's not the place that they thought, they wouldn't buy it. So if you say in the painting, I think, I'm trying to get this to make sense, we traveled all through Europe and it's a scene that depicts so many places we went. Or the question, should I take a college art class? Instead, the person may mean, do you think I have enough talent to take a class? Regarding the question, tell me the story of why you painted this. Be prepared before you post on social media or you go to a show. Don't be caught off guard. Even write out your answer with as many possible narratives that you could use in the future. People want to connect, be it to a place or experience. Don't say, where do you want to be? St. Thomas. Oh, I thought it was Hawaii. Instead, say, that reminds me of all the tropical places that we visited. You can see that I tried to type up what they were saying here and it didn't make a lot of sense. But when you paint in such a way, and I've got a couple of examples. This is Armand Cabrera. I went to one of his demos one time and I just grabbed this scene of a little bridge in the woods. And, that could remind you, that could be pretty vast of when you were a kid. Or I remember we used to walk down to the lake at my grandparents' in Boston. There wasn't a bridge like that, but there was a little pathway that led down to the lake. And it would cover more of a possible potential for buyers because it relates to something in their life. This other one of the heavyset ladies in the water reminds me of my grandmother and my aunts, when we would go to Wyman's Beach in Florida. So those were things that, even though that's not the person in the picture or the exact place, it invites a question or a what's the word? You relate to it.
Like Adeline by the lakeside here.
Yes, I can, I can relate to that. There's a picture of my sister and I, and our moms are sitting in lawn chairs behind us, and we're playing in the edge of the lake. And so that could, anybody would buy that because it's relatable. So ask the question. And then this last number 10 was good. It says, be aware of the chain reaction that begins with thoughts. Continually be mindful of the connection of your thoughts, words, actions, habits, character, and destiny have. I said that wrong. I've got the quote here, so I won't read that part. Leslie Sada says, an artist cannot fail. It is a success just to be one.
That's on your email, isn't it? Yours?
No, that's the duty of an artist is to send light into the hearts of men. But I love that.
Someone's.
Yeah, you've seen that before. That's Leslie Sada that does this Artist Helping Artists. I don't know if it's on hers. It is a success to be one, to say I'm an artist. And it took me forever to be able to say that. But how we think about it, I have a couple of other quotes about that. I want to go back to it. Max Lucado says, be careful what you think because your thoughts run your life. And how we think about our art, if we think it's not worth anything. And then Gandhi quote, if this is where this comes from, carefully watch your thoughts for they become your words. Manage and watch your words for they become your actions. Consider and judge your actions for they have become your habits. Acknowledge and watch your habits for they shall become your values. Understand and embrace your values for they become your destiny. And so how that relates in art, is how I'm thinking when I get up in the morning. Is this day sacred? Is this, what can I do in this day that will make an imprint for eternity? And most of that involves relationships with people, but I believe the relationship with ourselves and what gift that God has put in our spirit is equally as important as all the other relationships that we have around us. So I'm preaching to the choir here, to myself, to remind myself that art is a huge part of that. Gives me enjoyment and fuels my heart for all the other things. In this Sacred Yes Bible study, and in a couple that I've done lately, the statement, instead of overwork, overflow. Not overwork, but overflow. And it could be my logo for right now, because if I spend time doing what feeds my soul, which is time with God, time with others, in meaningful relationship, and time creating, then, and that overflows into the lives around me, then that is a very valid investment. And if any of those areas is deficit, I don't have that overflow, and I do find myself just working in this kind of treadmill way of life.
I like to look at it as sometimes, though, God allows the time. He takes care of all the things that needed to be done in their time, so that I'm allowed this time to do those things that I need to do today. I think of all the things with all this that have already been taken care of, that were completed, so that this time felt safer and allows me to do other things that needs to be done during this period of time. So I don't know, he just kind of works all that out in his timing. So hopefully that overflow can be met in your life too.
Well, and there's a tricky thing that there used to be a little illustration of a jar with 3 golf balls and the beans or rice. And if you remember that, and I mention that sometimes, but if you put all the beans and rice in first and then try to fit those golf balls in, they won't. But if you put those 3 most important things in first, and that goes back to getting up early, spending time with God in close communion, because he's the one that can orchestrate my day. He's the one that can help me fit and know what's important today. I fail in that sometimes because I jump up, my feet hitting the floor with either, the baby or just in my usual way. Like this morning, I was like, oh no, I've got to get this stuff ready for, for this mentor group today. This has fed my soul though, to be able to sit with you gals and soak this up a little bit and just stop and think about, and then the excitement of using these slides as a possible sketchbook, prompts of some things we can sit down, and even if I just made these little slides into, images that we could print off in a list or something to stick in our sketchbook, questions to ask ourselves. It's motivated that for me, and it's a tangible way to work this out in my life. I do have the Instagram stuff. I just realized it didn't get saved on this PowerPoint, so I'll save it for next time. And because we're already at about a little over an hour, so we did pretty good. I was going to set aside an hour and a half, but I think for most people about an hour, I start seeing them start to, that it's sunny out and everybody's got stuff to do.
Well, it encourages me, so thank you very much.
Oh, I hope so.
I'm so happy to be able to do this.
Me too. And I think even after class starts back, I'm going to keep some type, because I've got a couple of other students that have moved away and aren't connected right now. And I think I'll still probably at least once a month or something do this. I think it's important. And if I have enough people that want to do it. So anyway, I hope your day is fabulous. Is there anything else I can help you with on that painting?
Not at this point. I'm going to work on this one next. Like you, I've got a lot of outside stuff to do this afternoon, so I'm going to get to work on it for a few